Okay, I gotta have a discussion with a top-notch biologist. So I gotta do some study. I have to prepare for it a little bit. Have to get myself up to speed. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna study evolutionism a little bit, see what they got to say. Pretty much know everything they got to say anyway, obviously, because everybody, they all repeat whatever they hear anyway. But let's give it a try. Let's just see if we can learn something here from a search, online search. So let me do a screen share and let's see what we can come up with. There we go. And we are off. Okay. Let's do a little search here. Let's just see, what question should we ask? This says, oh, let's get a real specific question here. What is the mechanism for evolution? What is the mechanism for evolution? Okay, because I asked before, I asked what is evolution, and it didn't. It kind of gave me a general, vague sense of what evolution was. So let's see if we can get a little bit more on topic here. I mean, more direct, so we can find the mechanism of evolution. Okay, mechanisms of evolution correspond to violations of different Hardy-Weinberg assumptions. They are these guys: mutations, non-random mating, gene flow, infinite population size, genetic drift. Oh, finite, not infinite. Finite population size, genetic drift, and natural selection. Okay. So, oh, this is Khan Academy. So I tried to explain to him one time that evolution is nonsense, but apparently he went full, full whatever. Mechanism of evolution. Key points. When a population is in Hardy-Weinberg equilibrium for a gene, it is not evolving, and allele frequencies will stay the same across generations. I guess you call that homeostasis. A population is in Hardy-Weinberg equilibrium for a gene. It is not evolving, and allele frequencies will stay the same across generations. There are 5 basic Hardy-Weinberg assumptions: no mutation, random mating, no gene flow, infinite population. It does say infinite population size here. Infinite population size and no selection. Wait a minute. That don't says finite, didn't it? It says finite population size. It must have a typo here. Okay. Must have must have heard me talking, right? So infinite population size and no selection. Okay. If the assumptions are not met for a gene, the population may evolve for that gene. Okay. So I guess no mutation, random mating, no gene flow, infinite population size, and no selection. If the assumptions are not met for a gene, the population may evolve for that gene. Okay, the other one is, hold on a second, let me see. Okay, so this is the opposite. Mutation, non-random mating, gene flow, finite population size, genetic drift, and natural selection. So I get that straight. Okay, so here's what keeps keeps everything the same, I guess. No mutation, random mating, no gene flow, infinite population size, and no selection. Okay. If the assumptions are not met for a gene, the population may evolve for that gene. The gene's allele frequencies may change. Okay, he's only talking about single gene. Mechanisms of evolution correspond to violations of different Hardy-Weinberg assumptions. They are, here we go, mutation, non-random mating, gene flow, finite population size, genetic drift, and natural selection. Anyways, good. So in nature, populations are, so here we go. Watch out for the keywords, key phrases. May have, might have, you know, this jumped into that and that jumped into the other thing. In nature, populations are usually evolving. The grass in an open meadow, the wolves in a forest, and even bacteria in a person's body are all natural populations, and all these populations are likely to be evolving for at least some of their genes. Evolution. Okay, so you're not sure. He's just supposing probably they're evolving. Evolution is happening right here and now. No, it's affirmative. To be clear, that doesn't mean these populations are marching towards some final state of perfection. Of course not. Yeah, how can you have perfection? All evolution means is that the population is changing in its genetic makeup over generations. Yeah, it changes. It changes. The change may be subtle. For instance, in a wolf population, there might be a shift in the frequency of a gene variant for black rather than gray fur. Sometimes this type of change is due to natural selection. Other times it comes from migration of new organisms into the population or random events. The evolutionary luck of the draw. Yeah, that's a stretch. In this article, we'll examine what it means for a population to evolve, see the rarely met set of conditions required for a population not to evolve, and explore how failure to meet these conditions does in fact lead to evolution. Okay, we need a definition for evolution here because I don't think he knows what that means. First, let's see what it looks like when a population is not evolving, if a population is in a state of Hardy-Weinberg equilibrium and frequencies of alleles or gene versions and genotypes or sets of alleles in that population will stay the same over generations and will also satisfy the Hardy-Weinberg equation. Formally, evolution is a change of allele frequencies in a population over time. So a Hardy-Weinberg equilibrium is not evolving. Okay, I guess he doesn't want to say homeostasis. So hold on just a minute. Let me see, we've got that there. We got this here. Okay, we're good. Nobody watching, they're good. Okay, that's a little bit abstract, so let's break it down using an example. Imagine we have a large population of beetles. In fact, for the fun of it, let's just say it's a population of infinitely large. The beetles of our infinitely large population come in two colors, dark gray and light gray, and our colors determined by a gene AA and A small a beetles are dark gray and small a beetles are light gray. I don't think I can take too much of this, but in our population, let's say that the A allele has a frequency of zero point 0.3, while the small a allele frequency has a frequency of 0.7 in a population. If a population is in Hardy-Weinberg equilibrium, allele frequencies will be related to genotype frequencies by a specific mathematical relationship, the Hardy-Weinberg equation. Okay, we got an equation here. So we can predict the genotype frequencies we'd expect to see if the population in the Hardy-Weinberg equilibrium by plugging in allele frequencies as shown. Okay, we get 9% capital A, 42% both capital and small a, 49% small a. What is the difference between allele and genotype frequency? That's another rabbit hole. And let's imagine that these are in fact the genotype frequencies we see in the population. Yeah, I can't take too much of this here because this is only talking about variation. It's not talking about evolution. Okay. There's variation, different color variations. Now we're looking, this is under the title of Mechanisms for Evolution. And I think you said earlier that a small variation is the same thing as a big variation over time. Well, in other places they say that. So, enough for that. That's not even talking about evolution. This is a mechanism for a variation of the same thing, which they don't seem to understand. Let's try something else. Okay, mechanisms, the process of evolution. This is Berkeley, EDU. This is what you go to school for. Same thing, same nonsense, no mechanism, just variation. I want to see a mechanism for evolution. Other mechanisms for biology. Other mechanisms of evolution. Other mechanisms. Okay, here we go. Other mechanisms. Mutation generates variation. Okay, variation isn't evolution. Evolution by genetic drift causes changes in population by chance alone. There you go. It's by chance alone. But that's genetic drift, that's not evolution. Evolution, gene flow, migration takes two different populations more similar to each other. Okay, non-random mating results in mate choice, which is not evolution. Okay, so they failed. Berkeley failed. Let me see what else we got. How about this one here? What's this? Oh, we got that. They failed. How about this one here? Take too long. Okay, this one here. Try again. Give it another chance. No, skip it. Cliff notes. There we go. Biology Cliff Notes. So this has got to have it. This has got to have it. Gene flow, okay, mutation, gene flow, genetic drift, natural selection, species development. Here we go. Gradual versus rapid change. Okay. A species is a group of individuals that share a number of features that are able to interbreed with one another, producing fertile, non-sterile offspring. Why do you gotta say non-sterile? If it's fertile, it's fertile. When individuals of one species mate with the individuals of a different species, any offspring are usually sterile. A species is also defined as a population whose members share a common gene pool. So they're saying if it don't fit, you gotta quit. No. The evolution of a species is speciation. Yeah, speciation, which can occur when a population is isolated by geographical barriers such as but that's that would be variation. The variety of life forms found in Australia but nowhere else and is an example of speciation by geographic barriers. Okay, but so it's isolated and that means it's evolution because it's isolated? Well, I think what they're trying to say is that many times many different monkeys are isolated by geographical barriers. So they're the same monkey, but they develop different features and traits and looks and appearances just from their fur alone. But they're still a monkey, they're still the same monkey. And they know they're the same monkey. So the isolation is not going to make a new species. Speciation can occur when reproductive barriers develop, for example, when members of a population develop anatomical barriers that make mating. Oh, come on. Yeah, so they no longer speak. Usually, if they will isolate enough to become incompatible with each other long before they're genetically incompatible with each other. So that's not even making sense. So hold on a second. We got anybody here? Anybody talking? Carnivorous vape. Here we go. You want to join? You can join if you want. Help me study some evolution here. I got to get ready for Dan. Okay, I wanted to make this bigger. And I'll invite. I need somebody to help me study for my discussion with Dan, the PhD biologist. I don't know if you're disposable or I don't know. That doesn't even mean that's not even doesn't work in English. But if you're if you're available, that's what it is. Disposable. You're available. Okay, mechanisms of evolution. Hold on a second. So gradual versus rapid change. Okay. So yeah, so ring species become incompatible with each other long before they're genetically incompatible with each other because they act totally different and their actions, keep them from each other. Usually. Darwin's theory included the observation that evolutionary changes take place slowly. In many cases, the fossil record shows that a species change gradually over time. The theory of evolution occurs gradually is known as gradualism. Uniformitarianism. in contrast to gradualism is the theory of punctuated equilibrium with, come on. So all of a sudden there's punctuated equilibrium. There's gradualism and all of a sudden punctuated equilibrium, which is the point of discussion among scientists. Yeah, I guess so. According to the theory of punctuated equilibrium, some species have long stable periods of existence interrupted by relatively brief periods of rapid change. Both groups of scientists agree that natural selection, because they got to get some change in there somehow, because it's not changing. So here we go. Hello, Carnivus Ape. How are you doing?
How we doing?
Good. I got to change my sound setting here, and I'll be good. Okay. Yeah. So I have to study for biology class with Dan, the PhD. So maybe you can help me study.
Okay,
Sound
well,
sound
all right.
good? All right.
It seems like you're confused on what evolution actually is.
Okay. Can you see this? You can see the screen, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So they have to get some. See the gradual chain doesn't cut change doesn't cut it. So they got to get a punctuated equilibrium here going. So if they get the punctuated equilibrium going, then they can claim evolution. But that's only a theory anyway. They're going back and forth about it. They can't agree. Yeah. Both groups of scientists agree that natural selection is the single most important factor. Yeah, natural selection of what? Natural selection of mutations
Yeah.
or origin
Natural selection, period. I mean,
and or genetic drift, I guess. But the genetic drift is not going to change much because it only goes back and forth anyway. Okay, because if there's no mutation, it's not going to change. It's just going to be the same information that's recombined.
well, genetic drift applies to organisms that don't reproduce through sex.
Okay, that's genetic drift.
Yes, it's single cellular asexual reproduction.
Oh,
That's what
okay.
genetic drift applies to.
Okay.
Anything else is evolutionary mutation. You have a
Oh,
change in allele frequency in a species over time.
you have a mutation then, right? And then it's selected for.
It doesn't have to be a mutation. I mean, eventually it'll turn into a mutation, but what you're literally doing is shuffling DNA. Eventually, you're going to get a mutation in there.
Okay, I guess. But I'm looking for a mechanism for evolutions. So that would be. It seems.
Everything that you've shown is a mechanism.
It seems kind of slow to me. That's the thing.
Well, that's the reason why evolution takes thousands or millions of years.
Oh, this is the one that didn't work. Okay. Let's see, mechanism. Okay. Let's see what these guys say. Natural selection, mutation. Okay, genetic drift. You said genetic drift was only single-celled organisms.
Genetic drift
Another,
is most important in small populations. It would be completely absent in a population with infinite individuals.
imagine a population of 10 individual, half with the A and half with the A, small a.
Okay, yeah, it has a small factor in standard things, but it.
Okay, so forget what you said earlier then. Okay, all right.
No, just genetic drift mainly applies to things that don't reproduce through sex.
Okay,
Uh,
because I'm running across it quite often, and that's just the thing. So I gotta study what they say here.
yeah, so you're okay. The genetic drift when it comes to sexual reproduction is the big A little a allele. What they're talking about there are recessive and dominant genes.
Natural selection, mutation. Okay, mutation seems to be the only thing that could cause evolution, as far as I can tell. Mutation is a source of new alleles in a population. Mutation is a change in the DNA sequence of the gene. Mutation can change one allele into another, but the net effect of it is a change in frequency.
Mm-hmm.
So the change in the frequency resulting from the mutation is small. Oh, so the effect on the evolution is small unless it interacts with one of the other factors, such as selection. Okay. Yeah, see, they admit that it's not going to be very effective unless there is a selection that singles them out. Okay, the
Exactly. I
mutation.
mean, there's a mutation in humans for webbed toes. That right there does not affect humanity as a whole, so it's not really selected for.
Okay, a mutation may produce an allele that is selected against, selected for, or selectively neutral. Harmful mutations are removed from the population by selection and will generally only be found in very low frequencies equal to the mutation rate. Beneficial mutations will spread through the population through selection, although that initial spread is slow. Whether or not the mutation is beneficial or harmful is determined by whether it helps the organism survive to sexual maturity and reproduce. It should be noted that mutation is the ultimate source of genetic variation in all population new alleles, and therefore new genetic variations arise through mutation. So this seems to be the only thing that seems to cause evolution.
It's not the only thing. It's the driving factor, though.
Evolution, yeah. So, so what else did I once see? There whether or not the mutation. Oh yeah. So for example, if you had sickle cell anemia, and that people with the sickle cell tend to survive malaria, then they're not going to be affected by malaria, and so that will increase their population or increase the percentage in the population, right?
Yes, basically the in the areas where malaria is a dominant thing, then the people
Yeah,
with sickle cell anemia would obviously outlive the people that get malaria.
yeah, that's what I
So
meant.
then
Yeah,
you have the people with sickle cell anemia reproducing versus the people with malaria dying.
yeah, because there's the percentage of the population increases. Okay, another way is genetic drift. We already talked about that. It doesn't really affect anything. Okay, so they admitted here with all this here, they admitted that the cause of mutation. It should be noted that mutation is the ultimate source of genetic variation in all population new alleles. Therefore, new genetic variations arise through mutation. So, you know,
Yeah,
sit back,
it's the driving force,
sit back and relax because it's going to take a long time. In other words,
basically.
so the question would be, do we have enough time? Is there enough time?
Well,
According to evolution, because I don't even believe it does anything, anyways.
there in it. Well, according to evolution, then there's plenty of time because evolution corresponds with what we know of the age of the Earth, and there's plenty of time for that.
The age of the Earth. Um, yeah, well, there's a problem with the age of the Earth because
Not in the
indicators.
scientific consensus.
There's many indicators of age of the Earth, and most of them are of a younger Earth, not millions or billions of years.
There is what, three geologists on the planet that would be willing to stake their career on a young Earth.
Um, oh, they're brave souls then.
Yeah,
Okay,
and
genetic drift,
they work for the Creation Institute. They're not very.
natural selection, genetic drift. What's this? Population bottleneck. Bottleneck doesn't has nothing to do with evolution anyway.
It kind of does.
Okay, how would that affect it? Let me see.
Because a population bottleneck is indicated anytime that there's a bottleneck event. Basically, anytime a species drops
It,
down to a certain number of people or a certain number of
yeah,
individuals,
yeah, it would
then,
slow down. It would slow down the evolution.
well,
Okay.
yeah, but you've also got inbreeding and certain issues like that that has to take effect.
Yeah, and
The easiest
threaten the
bottleneck that
species.
we know of is in the
Yeah.
cheetah.
Not only does it slow down the evolution, it threatens the species. Yeah.
Yeah, the like I said, the easiest bottleneck that we know of is the cheetah. In which case we actually have it down to where it went down to, I believe, is either 14 or 17 individual cheetahs,
Which was
and which
probably an
is
Egyptian house cat.
no, this is literally the species of cheetah.
Yeah.
There is
That escaped back into the wild after being domesticated. Okay, so
you
then
are aware that a cheetah
drift and
has never been
influence.
domesticated.
Well, the Egyptians had them.
Not cheetahs.
Yeah. Gene flow. Gene flow. Okay, but you can only flow genes that exist already. So human journey migrations. Yeah, that's true. But they never crossed, the humans never crossed from Africa to South America because the continents broke apart before they started spreading out. But that's another rabbit hole.
Yeah, let's not get into that one.
So we still, the best evidence of evolution is mistakes in copying errors. So
No, not mistakes and copying errors, mutations.
yeah, it's a
No, it's
copying
not.
error.
There
Yeah,
is
it
a
is.
difference. No, there is a difference between a mistake and a copying error and a mutation.
No, there isn't.
Are these the excuses that you're going to give to this PhD scientist? Because I really want to see this now.
It's going to be 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern time tomorrow. I mean, not tomorrow, Monday. Monday p.m. 8 o'clock Eastern.
Is this on your channel or is this on Modern Day
His
Debate or what?
his channel. Just a
His channel.
discussion. Yeah, just as a discussion. It's creation myths.
Creation. Okay. Well, I
Okay.
mean, you've got a lot of them.
Yeah, because he's the scientist, I'm the student, so I just gonna
Mm-hmm.
have a discussion with him. But I have to learn something before I go there. So I'm studying up on it.
It would be a good idea because
And you're helping. You got to help me. But you just said something that didn't seem right. Is you said that a mutation is not a copy and error, but it is a copy and error.
no. I said mutations are not just copying errors.
Yeah, they are.
No, a
It's a mistake.
copying error is not the only. A copying error or a mistake is not the only mutation that you can have.
What other mutation is there?
There are various
I
mutations.
mean, the definition of mutation is a copy and error. That's
No,
the
it isn't.
definition of mutation.
It's fine. Get on to Google or whatever and look up the definition of a mutation because it is not.
Okay, we can do that.
I was about to say
This
the definition
this
is not
boring.
a copying error.
This is boring anyway, so let's look it up. Okay, mutation. Oh, what is a mutation? Question mark. Okay, what is a gene mutation and how do mutations occur? A gene mutation is a permanent alteration in the DNA sequence that makes up a gene, such that the sequence differs from what is found in most people. Mutations range in size. They can affect anywhere from a single DNA building block, base pair, to a large segment of a chromosome that includes multiple genes. Okay, so it's a
It's a
mistake.
permanent alteration. It is not a copying error.
Yeah, it's a copy and error.
No, okay. Down
It's an
syndrome is a copying error. Will you agree with that?
It's an alteration. Yeah, but
Like I said,
not all mistakes are going to result in Down syndrome.
no, and that's what I'm saying. Down syndrome is a copying error. That's literally an extra copy of a chromosome. Okay,
Well,
that right there is yes, it's a mutation.
Yeah,
but that's not the only mutation we have is Down syndrome.
You have to understand that we are all different numbers of copies of the same information. Anyway, if you compare my Y chromosome with yours,
Okay, let's not
you
jump
are
into
going
the
to have
chromosome.
different numbers of copies of the same information in your Y chromosome as I have. I'm going to have 23.
But there's 45 other chromosomes.
I'm going to have 23, and you're going to have 25 or something. No, and then the next one is I'm going to have 12, and you're going to have 14. Whatever. That's what the I mean that's what our DNA is. That's what makes up the differences in us.
Yes, and we have 23 base pairs of chromosomes, which means that we have 46 total chromosomes split 23 from each pair.
Right. So it's all different numbers of copies of the same information.
Okay. But something as simple as a mutation does not have to be a copying error. Okay. It could literally just be a mutation, a small alteration. Okay.
But it is a copying error, though.
It's not a copying error. If there's nothing that's copied and the base pair itself just changes, it's not a copying error. That's a mutation still.
Some of them are harmless. Like if you have different numbers of copies of the same information, most of that is harmless.
Yes, my roommate has webbed toes. None of his parents have webbed toes. That was literally a mutation off of a chromosome. That's not a copying error.
That is a copying error. A mutation is a copying error. It's a mistake.
No, we just went over that. A mutation is not a copying error. It's an alteration in a base pair.
It's
a permanent alteration.
Alteration means there's a change in the gene sequence.
Yes, but an alteration is not a copying error.
Sequence that makes up the gene. It's a mistake. It's a copying mistake. That's what it is. Okay. All right. Now we settled that.
Well, we did. You proved me right, but now you're still backtracking, saying that you're right.
Of course I'm right. It's a copying mistake.
No, it's not.
I just showed you. It's an alteration.
An alteration is not a copying error.
Yeah, it is. Composed of 4 processes. Yeah. Here we go. Descent with modification. How about that? Mechanisms of evolution. There we go. Now we're getting on it. Mechanisms of evolution. Let's start from the beginning. Evolution is simply a change over time. Oh, wow. Change.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
Darwin proposed that the mechanism by which change occurs was natural selection, which is considered by most scientists as the main mechanism for evolution. There are, however, several other mechanisms for the process which affect evolutionary change. Man is directly affecting the evolution of organisms through artificial selection and recombinant DNA technology. What? Oh, skip that. There are also non-selective. What?
Artificial selection and recombinant DNA technology. That's basically dog breeding.
Recombinant DNA technology. Dog breeding is artificial selection.
Dog breeding is artificial selection. The recombinant DNA technology is gene splicing.
Yeah, which has nothing to do with evolution.
It's a form of artificial selection.
Yeah, but it has nothing to do with natural selection.
It's a form of artificial selection. That's what I just said.
Yeah, but it has nothing to do with evolution. There are also non-selective mechanisms which result in change in the gene pool of populations, including gene flow or migration, genetic drift. There's the genetic drift again. You said only happens in single cells. And the founder effect. What's a founder effect? Maybe we'll find out. Okay. Endosymbiosis is an accepted theory as to the mechanism of how eukaryote cells arose from symbiotic relationships between bacterial cells, which is, they say, is mitochondria. It is also an interesting but controversial explanation for driving evolutionary change. Okay. Well, yeah, because they can't prove it. Natural selection, the key mechanism of evolution. So here they're saying natural selection is the key mechanism because they don't want to say mistakes is the only thing that's going to cause evolution. Definition: descent with modification, a differential survival and reproduction of classes or variants of organisms that differ from one another in one or more usually heritable characteristics. Through this process, the forms of organisms in a population are best adapted to their local environment, increased in frequency relative to less well-adapted forms over a number of generations. Fitness equals ability. To pass on one's gene to the next generation. This is the difference in survival and reproduction is not due to chance. Okay, this difference in survival is not due to chance. It's due to the ability to pass on one's gene.
Yes.
Natural selection acts on an individual's phenotype. Okay, and even if the dominant ape is dominant in everything, it doesn't mean that he only has dominant genes. Genetic variation, random mutation, can be silent mutation, may result in phenotypic difference. Compose the fourth process. Okay, we got natural selection, definition, descent with modification, composed of four processes. One's genetic variation, random mutation can be silent mutation or may result in phenotypic difference. Random crossing over during meiosis. Okay, random assortment of chromosomes during meiosis. Random combination of sperm and egg during fertilization.
I don't suggest you click that link.
Why sex is important video clip. Why sex is important. Gene flow or migration, introduction of new alleles into gene pool from migrant individuals. Okay, so we got gene flow, random combination of sperm and egg, random assortment of chromosomes during meiosis, random crossing over during
Meiosis.
meiosis, neomeiosis. Okay, traits or variations are inherited from parents. Heritability. Okay, so we got genetic variation. This is what you're saying, most of which is mistakes.
No, it's random mutation. It's not
Well,
mistake.
there's what I call recombination, is random crossing over during meiosis, assortment from chromosomes during meiosis. That's where they exchange the information and they decide. The angels are throwing dice to decide, who comes out or what features will result. Is the angels throwing dice? A random
I
combination
just
of
got a
sperm.
really weird mental image of a bunch of angels sitting around with Dungeons and Dragons character sheets.
Heritability traits from parents, overproduction of offspring. Individuals produce more offspring than will survive. Reproductive advantage, struggle for existence. Individuals compete for habitat, food, space, species, environment, selects individuals with phenotypes that are best suited, adapted for survival, which is not evolution. Leads to differential
Hold on, whoa, how is that
reproduction.
not evolution?
Because you're selecting the best suited for the environment.
Yes,
From
the environment naturally selects individuals that are best suited for or adapted for survival.
from an existing genome. It's not how the genome got there. Leads to
No,
differential
that would be
reproduction.
the genetic variation.
The variation.
Yes.
Yes, the variation from what was already there leads to different reproduction of fitness enough where advantageous alleles are passed on and amplified in the population. Okay, here it says they're amplified. In other
Yes.
words, you have a big beak, you get a bigger beak. Adaptations can simultaneously result in deleterious as well as helpful traits. Sickle cell video.
So, such as sickle cell anemia.
Okay, so it's reproductive advantage struggle, overproduction of offspring, heritability, genetic variation. Okay. Types of natural selection. Sexual selection, we know about that. Preferential mating due to behaviors, mating to dances, fights, sounds, squeaks. Plumage can be determined by long-term survival. Black widow spider. Type force that selects against one extreme, directional selection. Okay, sexual selection, directional selection,
Mm-hmm.
selects against one extreme. Increases selection of extreme traits over another. Disruptive selection, type of selection force that splits population into two phenotypic groups. Okay. Tends to retain individuals with extreme traits. Stabilizing selection.
Okay, that would
It-
the disruptive selection is the dark peppered moth example.
there's one population goes one place and another population goes another place, and they're
Well,
separated.
the third example right there is the peppered moth in Britain, the darker colored ones because they the soot in the air survived over the lighter colored ones.
Yeah, which was disproved many times before, many
How
times
was that
over.
disproved?
It was disproved many times over that it doesn't even it's not even true because they don't even land on trees like that, and a whole bunch of crazy things, you know. So, but they still use it. They still use embryos too, because I saw one of these things had embryos. Tends to retain. Okay, we already went that. Other mechanisms of evolution. Okay, this is not evolution. It's selective
It's still evolution.
variation.
It's just artificial evolution.
Oh, it's variation. Oh, you got two different sizes of the same fish. Okay, gene flow, which is not. None of this is evolution. Okay, and
There's every bit of this is evolution.
then you have this imaginary tree of life, none of which is observed. None of which is observed because it all appears suddenly in the Cambrian explosion. Okay, so we learned quite a bit. We got mechanisms, evolutionary mechanisms. Okay, evolution is process, change over time. There's no highlighted things here. Requires genetic variation. This is
That's
not
it.
a
Variation or changes. That's what a mutation is.
well, variation is very the variability of the genome that was already there.
Still not a copying error,
No, that's not a copy error.
but it
But
says mutations.
if you want evolution, you need a copy error if you want evolution.
In your fantasy, there's
No,
not one
no, 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 no.
scientific paper says that a copying error is required for evolution.
No, because the variation is from existing information that goes back and forth. It's known to go back and forth. Big, big, small, big, back and forth.
So, is it your opinion that an elephant's suddenly going to give birth to a field mouse?
No.
I mean, they've been getting bigger and bigger, and
Um,
then suddenly they get small again. I don't understand how that works.
what did I say though? I says it goes back and forth. Big, big, small, big. How do you get a mouse from an elephant? No, never mind.
Well, I mean,
Recombination
you seem to
involves.
think that evolution works like at the generational level.
I said it goes. It's recombination of the same information. It goes back and forth. It goes back and forth between big, big, small, big, small, big.
It's not a pattern there. It's random.
No, it's according to the need. It's called the what's it called? It's let's see. See, it's not even talking about that stuff here. It's responding to the environment is what it's called. It's what's it called? See, I'm trying to learn evolution here. It's not even teaching you what the things are. Let me go to a real paper here. Here. Let me go to a real paper. Maybe I can learn more here. Um, trying to see. Trying to find a word. Where is it? Okay. Um, gene regulation, various signaling pathways, epigenetics. That's what it was. I can't forget that. Epigenetics. It's epigenetics. It's responding to the environment. See, this is a real paper here.
Various tasks essential to cell structure and development. How does that respond to the environment?
Yeah, epigenetics. There are at least 23 epigenetic codes are multidimensional and perform various tasks essential to cell structure and development. But it's the epigenetics that responds to the, oh, those are the codes. It's talking about. Okay, so let's see what it's talking about. Never in over 150 years since Darwin book Origin of the Species was published has one amongst hundreds of thousands, if not millions of science papers provided one demonstration and empirical verifiable replicable, replicable evidence that any of the evolutionary mechanism proposed could produce a primary macro evolutionary transition zones of speciation and population differentiation. Let that sink in for a moment.
Oh, hey, Ronan.
Based on, does Roman want to come in? I mean, not that I need him or anything, but you see the you see the link. You can come in if you want. Is he in there? No.
I don't know. I just finally noticed him in the chat.
Okay. So, yeah, he didn't come in yet. So, based on evidence seen in biochemistry on a molecular level, we can now say affirmatively and conclusively that Darwin's theory of evolution by natural selection in regards of primary speciation macroevolutionary level has been falsified. The real mechanisms that explain biodiversity, the
What website
real,
is this?
the real mechanism. This is a paper. The real mechanisms that explain biodiversity in complex or organismal architecture and pre-programmed instructional complex information encoded in various genetic and epigenetic languages and communication by various signaling codes through various signaling networks. That brings us unambiguously to intelligent design, to the origin by an intelligent designer.
This is a creation website. This isn't a paper. This is.
Oh, it doesn't count? Pinpointing what really defines body architecture, the orchestration of organism development, cell shape, and body form, and the mechanism of adaptation and primary speciation, and exposing the correct explanation of biochemical mechanisms and biodiversity is the holy grail of biological sciences. Pre-programmed codified information and signaling replaces Darwin's theory and its various subsequent adaptations, extensions, and new proposals like the pre-programmed codified information, modern extended synthesis or so-called third way. The true mechanisms, biochemical systems, programming and signaling, and special creation of species and or kinds by an intelligent, powerful creator, long periods of time and gradual evolutionary development is not possible. Face the fact that cells and organisms work like gigantic interlocked machines and factory complexes where in any case, if one tiny part is missing, nothing goes. Natural selection would not select for components of a complex system that would be useful only in the completion of that much larger system. No glycine, amino acids, no pyrimidines,
I was about to say it's too small for me to even see the word.
no DNA, no life, no Watson-Crick base pair fine-tuning, no DNA, no life, no ribosomal mechanism for amino acid, amide bondage, no proteins, no life, no nitrogenase enzymes to fix nitrogen in an energy demanding triple bond breaking process. No, they're talking about mechanisms here that are beyond our wildest imagination here. No
No,
ammonia.
they're using 50 million words to say irreducible complexity.
Required to make amino acids. Yeah, but it's a directed working mechanism, though. How do you get a directed working mechanism?
No, the guy, for some reason, this guy can't use 2 words. He's got to use 100.
No
Okay? He's literally
nitrogen.
just saying irreducible complexity.
No nitrogen cycle, no advanced life, no chlorophylls, no upside. See, you get into chlorophylls, you're talking about quantum mechanics. No absorption of life to start
What? What?
photosynthesis.
What? Hold on.
No start.
You're saying chlorophyll has to do with quantum mechanics?
Yeah, a lot of biological processes involve quantum tunneling, all kinds of crazy stuff, and it's all by instruction,
Chlorophyll is
by
made by
friction,
plants.
by yeah. But you agree that a photon is a particle of light, right? So it has to be by quantum mechanics that it's utilized.
Okay, that's
No
not what he's
starch
saying
and
right here, though.
glucose. No, no, well,
That he's saying that now he's just going on to plants are irreducibly complex.
no starch
The
and
bit of it was the first
glucose.
part of it was bacteria, then it was
Cells,
life, or then it was animals, and now it's plants.
food, sustained, complex organisms, no advanced life on Earth, no Rubisco to fix of CO2, no hydrocarbons, no advanced life, no Conterion in retinol and rhodopsin could not receive visible light, and there would be no vision on Earth by any organism. Okay, so we have these things here.
So he spent three-quarters of a paragraph trying to say irreducible complexity.
No, he's giving the details of what the complexity is. The
No,
detail,
he's filling out a paper. That's all he's doing. That's jargon.
the gene regulation network is one thing, orchestrates gene expression. Various signaling pathways generate cell types and patterns. At least 23 epigenetic codes, these are passwords, are multi-dimensional multidimensional and perform various tasks essential to cell structure and development. Cell to cell communication in various forms, especially important for animal development. Chromatin dance in the nucleus through extensor motors affect transcription and gene regulation. Everything is monitored, everything is checked, everything is rechecked. Post transcriptional modification of histones affect gene transcription. The DNA methylation code is like a barcode or marker of the methyl group, indicates, for instance, which gene in the DNA are to be turned on. Homeobox and Hox genes determine the shape of the body. Non-coding DNA, junk DNA, is transcribed into functional non-coding RNA molecules, which switches protein coding genes on or off, which is a oxymoron.
I was about to say, didn't you tell me a couple of months ago that junk DNA doesn't exist?
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's called junk DNA. It's called junk DNA, but it's transcribed into functional non-coding RNA molecules and switches protein coding genes on or off. Transposons and retrotransposons regulate genes. So all this DNA information that they said was junk is all essential. Centrosomes play a central role, which we could have told you to begin with, in development, and precise arrangement of cytoskeletal arrays provides critical structural information. Membrane targets provide crucial information, spatial coordinates, and for embryological development. Ion channels and electromagnetic fields influence the form of a developing organism. The sugar code forms information-rich structures which influence the arrangement of different cell types during embryological development. Egg polarity genes encode macromolecules deposited in egg to organize the axis. Hormones are special chemical messengers for development. Okay, so this is a lot of coding going on. a lot of programming going on, a lot of instruction going on. None of which, if any one of them these things weren't here, the animal wouldn't exist, organism wouldn't exist.
Yet still it's called irreducible complexity.
It's still called you. It has to all be there for it to work. That's what it's called.
Yeah, and that's the one of the dumbest creationist arguments. I mean, if
Well,
I'm
if
pretty
it's
sure you've seen true empiricism
if the
get
password
himself
is
handed
not
to him
there, if the password is not there, how are you going to get the password for it to be there, for it to work, for it to do
because
what it's
there
supposed
is
to
no
do?
password.
No, it's all full of passwords. See all this stuff? These are codes. These are passwords. They're codes. They're
No,
zip codes. They're
this was a
addresses.
paper written by a creationist to try
Addresses.
to disprove evolution. You're not
Zip
going to get
codes.
any information out of this thing. You'll get
Well,
plenty of misinformation, but you're not
no,
going to get any
no.
actual information.
Evolution is being steamrolled, and unless you want to become part of the payment, you got to get out of the way. Okay, biological scientists have come to discover in the last decades that major morphological innovation, development, and body form are based on at least 16 different but integrated mechanisms that interplay of genes with gene regulatory networks, trans and retro retrotransposons, so-called junk DNA, gene splicing and recombination, and at least 2 dozen epigenetic informational code systems, some like the glycan sugar code far more complex than genetic code. Wow. On the membrane, exterior side of cells, post-transcriptional modifications of histones, hormones, ion channels, electromagnetic defined through DNA sequences alone. You know what electromagnetic is, right? That's
Electromagnetic fields.
It's electricity. These varied
You
mechanisms.
skipped an entire line there.
No, I read the whole thing.
No, you didn't. It's 10 channels in electromagnetic fields that are not specified by nuclear DNA.
Yeah, but I read it already. Ion channels, electromagnetic fields specified in membrane targets, patterns, cytoskeletal arrays. Centrosomes are inherited by cell memory, which is not defined through DNA sequences alone. Yeah, maybe I didn't read it. These varied mechanisms orchestrate gene expression, generate cell types and patterns, form various tasks essential to cell structure and development, are responsible for important tasks of organismal development, affect gene transcription, switch protein codings, genes on and off, determine the shape of the body, regulate genes, provide. This is your webbed feet right here. Determine the shape of the body, regulate genes, provide critical structural information and spatial coordinates for embryological development, influence of the form of the developing organism and arrangement of different cell types during embryological development, organize the axis, and act as chemical messengers for development. So there's all kinds of programming and signaling going on, starts and stops, and that's why you get webbed feet.
Thomas Bell
Neo-Darwinism,
blueprint.
Neo-Darwinism is a modern synthesis have proposed traditionally a gene-centric view. Okay, this is a gene-centric view. It turns out that a lot of the information is not even in the genes, the genome. A lot of the information is coming from elsewhere. Scientific metabiological proposal going back to Darwin's on the origin of species, where first natural selection was proposed as a mechanism of biodiversity and later gene variation defining how bodies are built and organized. Not even recently proposed alternatives like the third way neutral theory, inclusive fitness theory, saltationism, saltatory ontogeny, mutation, genetic drift, or combined theories do justice by taking into account all the organizational, physiological hierarchy and complexity which empirical science has come to discover. See, get out of
Okay, so what's your take on 3?
the steam. The steamroller is coming, and if you don't want to become part of the pavement, you better get out of the way.
That's your entire take on 3 right there.
And that's my entire take. Only
So the fact that this guy is trying to say that, well, Darwin doesn't know anything about genetics, therefore evolution is wrong.
no, that's not what it said. It said even after Darwin, all the things, all the theories they proposed don't even begin to cover everything that they're discovering right now.
Okay.
Okay, only a holistic view, namely
But the
structuralism.
fact that Darwin was able to propose natural selection as a process, and it's been confirmed by genetic
Yeah, because
drift,
we could see,
genes, and everything. The discovery of DNA,
because we could see the the changes in the you know the populations, the future generations or whatever. We could observe that if you take different colored animals and have offspring, that they're going to be a mixture of the two.
hmm. Okay, so
So they could
is that the scientific interpretation or the
no,
biblical
that
interpretation?
was that was all Darwin had, is just the observation of the finches and things like that.
Yeah, the finches on one island had a different diet, therefore their beaks were a different shape. The finches on the other island ate, bugs or whatever, and their beaks were, a different shape altogether.
Yeah, which has to do
Which is genetic drift, which is a
epigenetic codes, which are passed down from parent to child. So what the parent experiences is reproduced, or the response is reproduced in the offspring.
which is natural selection.
No, which is a response to the environment that is built into the genome.
Okay,
This epigenetic coding.
how is that not natural selection?
It's a response by the genome. It's
No, no. Going back to Darwin's time, where they didn't know anything about genetics.
it's like a
How are
flea.
finches' beaks developed based on their diet, not natural selection?
Because today we know it's by a response, an epigenetic response to the environment,
So it's an environmental adaptation. Congratulations, that's natural selection.
which changes the beak size back and forth. Now, if you had another stimuli on the organism, it would have another response. Okay, only a holistic view, but it can never be what it has no written instruction to be. It can only respond according by way of information that's already there.
Not one of these papers, even the creationist ones that you pop up, say anything about written instruction.
What do you mean? It's all
That,
coding.
no,
This
that
is
this is a
all this is
creationist
all
paper.
coding.
That nowhere does it say written
It's all
instruction for
it's
anything.
all passwords, coding, addresses, zip codes, everything. And you're
Zip
saying
codes,
that
really?
you're
There's
saying
hit
there's
codes in
no
your DNA?
and you're saying there's no information. All which has to be right, and it all has to respond to the environment. Only a holistic view, namely instructionalism and systems biology, take into account all influences that form cells and size and body development and growth, providing adequate description of scientific evidence. The big umbrella contributor to explain organismal complexity, pre-programmed the instructional complex information encoded in various languages and communication through signaling through various signaling networks that on structural level are pre-instructed to respond to the environmental cues, development, and nutritional demands, and they are apt to communicate crosstalk, signal, regulate, govern, control, recruit, interpret, recognize, orchestrate, elaborate strategies, guide, and so forth. All codes, blueprints, and languages are inventions by intelligence. Therefore, the genetic and epigenetic codes and signaling networks and instructions are to build cells and complex biological organisms were most likely created by an intelligent agency. Oh, and see, this is only the beginning. Look, this is a real paper here. See this paper? This is a real paper. Of course, I'm getting into a whole bunch of things, right?
No, I'm still trying to figure this out. Do you think you can send me the link to this in the private chat?
Um, sure.
Because I can't read half of this. My screen's not big enough, or my resolution is not good enough.
Yeah. Where are we? Well, okay. There's the private chat. Is that right? Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Thinking, what in the world? Okay, comments. We got Ronan. Hi, Jungle Jargon. Hi, Carnivorous. Okay. Yeah, so that's a real paper. So I learned more with that than I ever did with anything on Google or asking for the mechanisms of evolution.
You learned. You're actually going to go out on the limb and say that you learned more from this thing than you did anything else.
That's not going out on a limb. You can just look and see.
Oh, that is going out on the
count the words, count the information, and compare it to what I'm reading here. The remains and traces of organisms from past geologic age embedded in rocks by natural processes are called fossils. They are extremely important for understanding the evolutionary history of life on Earth, as they provide direct evidence of evolution and detailed information on ancestry of organisms.
Okay, what did you expect from my Google search?
Yeah, well, this is Wikipedia. It's Wikipedia, but they're supposed to be scientists, whatever.
Are you expecting an 8-year biology course, summed up in 3 sentences?
Well, but look what it says here, though. It says,
It gives you a simple explanation.
no, it says understanding evolutionary history of life on Earth.
Fossils are important for understanding evolutionary history,
as they provide direct evidence of evolution.
Yes, fossils do provide direct evidence. It's just not evidence that creationists accept.
It's not evidence of evolution. It's evidence of the global flood.
No, it's not.
To begin with. And there is no way you can connect one life form to another. They don't connect because they're buried by the same global flood to begin with, and they appear with no previous ancestry and nothing other than what they are afterwards. It's just grabbing at straws. It's time for it to die.
It isn't. I mean, yeah.
Let it go. It's just let it die. Let it die because it's got no life left. Evolutionism got no life left in it. There's no life left in it. It's dead.
So I'm going to assume that's a no.
What's the evidence for it? This is the evidence of the global flood. What are they talking about? Oh, this is this is biologos. There you go. See why don't why doesn't Wikipedia show a fossil with the in a death pose being drowned by the global flood?
I assume
probably, yeah, because they don't care about the facts. What's the evidence for evolution? Evolution is
things change.
Evolution isn't even scientific. What are they talking about? Evolution is a theory supported by an overwhelming amount of evidence. Some Christians fear that accepting the theory. No, you got to prove it. Prove it or be quiet.
It's been
Prove it.
proven. That's the problem. Go back to that first paragraph, or go back to that first paragraph and read it.
What has been proven?
Okay. Some Christians fear that accepting the theory means rejecting God as your creator. That's the reason why
Where's the proof?
Creationists cannot accept evolution.
Where's the proof? I don't say
There.
proof.
No, you refuse to see a proof. There's a difference.
Where? Where?
Things change. That is an observable fact. Evolution is the theory behind that fact.
It can't be anything other than what's in the genome. Farm structures point to common ancestors. Now, your imagination points to common ancestors that don't even exist.
Really.
See, people used to say that we came from monkeys. Now they say we came from a common ancestor with a monkey.
No, that's just your understanding of it that's changed.
So what's the difference?
The difference is the fact that us and monkeys diverged from a common ancestor. That's literally how that works.
That's exactly what I said. And what's the difference?
Because the fact that we are still primates, we are still apes.
You say you didn't come from a monkey, but you came from an ancestor of a monkey. That's the same thing.
No, it's not.
It's saying the same thing. You just don't see how dumb it is. Anyway.
Okay. Let me try to explain it to you this way. Are wolves dogs?
Not really. They're a variation of the canine kind.
Wolves are their own species, correct?
Well, that's where dogs came from, but
are dogs wolves?
They can mate with wolves. Some of them.
Okay. Dogs are a form of wolf, correct?
If they're big enough, yeah.
Canis lupus domesticus. That is literally a form of wolf.
So?
Okay. This is literally the frog and the toad thing all over again. Okay. Dogs are a form of wolf. Dogs are wolves.
Frog
but
and
not
a toad.
All wolves are dogs.
No, toads can't mate with frogs, and frogs can't mate with toads. What are you talking about?
Okay. Are frogs toads?
No.
No. But are toads a type of frog?
But they can't interbreed.
They're a different species. But are toads a type of frog?
No, because they can't interbreed.
They are still a type of frog.
No, a toad is a toad and a frog is a frog. Even different frogs can interbreed. Or different toads, different frogs.
Okay, let's go back to the dogs because it's a little bit easier to explain now. Okay.
Besides, they could be classified as aquatic anyway, so that's another
All
thing.
dogs are a type of wolf. Okay, all dogs descended from wolves. Do you have an issue with that?
No.
Okay. Are all wolves dogs?
Wolves are wolves. They just remained wolves. Wolves were not domesticated.
That's the difference between common ancestry. All dogs are wolves. Not all wolves are dogs. So all humans are apes, but not all apes are human.
No, because we can't interbreed. It's not complicated.
Apparently, you're trying to make it more complicated than it is.
No. We can't even begin. You ever see the Y chromosome of a chimp compared to Y chromosome of a human?
Yeah, that's because there's like 6 or 7 different species that we know of that's separating us from chimps. Okay, the dog and wolf analogy, there's one species, and it's not even a full species; it's a subspecies. Okay, there's a bigger break in there between humans and chimps than there is between dogs and wolves.
And it's so big a break that they have instruction that we don't have, and we have instruction that they don't have, and it makes us a lot smarter than what they are. So we're not even the same kind to begin with. But that's, what do you care about the facts,
Obviously, I care more about the facts than you do.
Well, I just told you what the fact is.
No, you let out a whole bunch of trash.
Evolution is being steamrolled, and if you don't want to become part of the pavement, you better get out of the way and let it go, let it die.
You've said that 4 times now. Are you going to just keep? Do you have that on a script?
Let it die. Let it die. Get out of the way and let it die. Of course, we don't have fossils of every species that lived. Fossilization is very rare. Only with a global flood. And it was only a global flood one time, but
Yes.
now there are thousands of
Which is
fossils.
the reason why trilobites and dinosaurs managed to be fossilized, but only one flood, right?
Yeah, buried by the same flood.
Really?
Yeah.
So that's why there's
There's
1 billion years difference between the two?
there's 4 mega sequences of sediment layers in the United States, one on top of the other. Mega sequences. You know what a mega sequence of stratification is, or sediment layers? 4
No,
of
why
them.
don't you go ahead and explain that to me?
They're 4 different mega. In other words, they're like mega sequences, like a mile deep, or maybe less, but it's a mega sequence, and then there's 4 of those mega sequences stacked on top of each other like pancakes. That's what our geology is. That's what geology is. It's
Mm.
the result of the global flood. So if the sooner you understand that, the easier it will be to understand known human history that comes from Noah. That we are all people that stepped off
Because
the
human
ark.
history doesn't come from Noah.
The what?
No,
What doesn't come from Noah?
nothing comes from Noah. Noah wasn't a real person.
You don't have a great 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 grandfather that we all have in common. You just said we have a common ancestor, and you don't and you say Noah doesn't exist. He's our common ancestor.
Anthony Maurice wants in. No,
And
nothing. We have a common ancestor. His name was not Noah.
Tony,
Hey guys, good morning.
what's up? Good morning.
Hey, Tony.
I'm studying.
Hey,
I'm
what's
studying
up?
for my discussion with PhD Dan.
Oh,
How are you doing?
how
Oh,
did life? Yeah, the atheist. How did life
did
get?
you see the did you
Yeah, I
see the
wanted to.
paper I was reading? This is the paper I was reading.
Yeah, I was talking to James Tor yesterday. It was pretty good. I'm gonna try to get him on next week.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's good.
He talks
Look at
about
that. You see?
the RNA world, how they engineer RNA under all these manipulated conditions that have no relevance to the early Earth.
Yeah, you see that this paper here. You'll learn more about the
Yeah.
genome here than you will on any Wikipedia page.
Oh, I know. I was an atheist for 20 years. I already know.
That's amazing.
I read it all.
Yeah. So yeah,
And
go ahead. And you were
whatever
saying,
they whatever all this RNA that they can engineer in the lab. Yeah, great, do it. All it's proving is that it takes intelligent agency to do it, manipulate and purify all these chemicals. So I hope they do succeed. All it proves is that it takes a mind to do it.
You're one of those people. Okay.
Well, what else does it prove? I mean, prebiotic conditions have been failing for decades.
No, just prebiotic conditions haven't been agreed on.
Yeah, they have. I mean, you have high hopes that it's going to be proven.
I have very little care if it's proven or not.
Well, that's the foundation of, of everything for the atheistic camp. How did
No,
life get, huh?
evolution is one small factor of science. Where
Right.
okay, you claimed that you were an atheist, but then you turn around and said that evolution is the foundation for atheism. How the hell does that work?
No, I said abiogenesis is the foundation. I didn't say evolution.
Abiogenesis and evolution are two different things.
I gotta make a coffee. You guys can go ahead and keep talking.
Go ahead.
Sure. Yeah, they're absolutely connected, but the foundation is you got to get life going in the first place.
Okay, and because we still have actual hypotheses that are, we have working theories and hypotheses that are worrying about abiogenesis, how does that disprove evolution?
You just said we're discussing. I'm discussing abiogenesis right now.
Okay, me and Jungle were discussing evolution, but I mean, you're trying to jump in on how did life get started when that's
Oh
not even
yeah.
right now.
Oh, I think that's a valid question of how life got going. Yeah, that's valid.
That's not a valid question when you're discussing after the fact that life's already been here.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm asking you. I can't ask that.
What are you asking? What exactly are you asking?
I think you heard me. I mean, how did life start? I mean, it's pretty obvious that, uh, I know you probably don't want to talk about it.
Genesis.
What's that?
Scientific consensus is abiogenesis.
That's not a consensus. It's failing.
No, it's literally the consensus.
Consensus. Science is not a democracy. It would take one scientist to disprove it or show that there's good evidence against it. I mean, Darwin was one person, and he didn't even know what a cell was.
Okay, and what's your point? Darwin didn't discover.
That's my point. That's my point. Just because there's a consensus, so what?
Okay, how is that your point then? You just tried to say
No,
that.
you're saying it is. You're saying because there's a consensus, so therefore it will be proven one day because all these scientists are agreeing.
No, it will either be proven or proven wrong. There is a difference.
Oh, okay. Right, yeah. I'm saying that it's filled.
Until then, we have to go with what science tells us, that we actually have working theories for.
I mean, they're failing.
Make shit up. Failing. It's completely different.
Yeah, but they're failing. We're trying to sequence all this information. We can't even produce all the correct molecules and bases needed for RNA under prebiotic, conditions. Do you know any of the chemistry?
That's literally one of the three hypotheses, though. I mean,
but they're not working. You're not listening because I'm telling you they're not working. They can't synthesize all these bases under prebiotic conditions. They don't produce activated nucleotides. Chemists have to purchase all these synthetic kits and purified chemicals.
Gain because you're screaming at me.
What's that?
Do you think you can lower your gain a little bit because you're screaming at me?
Oh, sure. I was saying that chemists have to purchase these pre-prepared chemicals and molecules. Everything's been chemically sequenced, purified, chemical stabilizers are added. All these experiments are highly manipulated. I can send you some papers on it.
Manipulated or regulated?
Oh, highly manipulated by intelligent agency.
Mm.
Everything from pH to temperatures to purified reagents to chemically altered bases.
So at that point in time, what's the point of even asking scientists to do these experiments if all you're going to say is, well, an intelligent agency had to do it anyway, so therefore God?
You have to investigate it under unguided conditions. You have to start with a random pot of chemicals. You can't have a chemist hand select exactly what's needed.
Okay, if we're trying to recreate the chemicals on a prebiotic Earth, how would you do that randomly?
I just told you, you have to start with random mixtures. You can't start exactly with what that biochemical system is made up of.
So, okay, this is where you're losing me right here. You're claiming that because we know what the chemical makeup of a prebiotic Earth is.
Yeah, we do.
We have to go with a random selection.
Well, we know, yeah, because you're not going to have a chemical puddle with say all left-handed amino acids. If you think that, and you're in fantasy land because they can't even generate a single protein. So you believe in some microenvironment that there's some chemical puddle.
No, don't start that bullshit. Don't tell me what I believe.
Okay, so then you believe that the Earth was filled with purified.
Tell me what I believe. Okay,
so the Earth had purified reagents. Yeah, you don't know.
No, you do not have the right to tell me what I believe because you
have
no idea what I believe. That's the problem.
Yeah. Okay, so what do you believe was present on the early Earth?
I don't give a shit.
What's that?
Literally, I do not give a shit.
Oh, okay. So just start cursing then. Okay.
No, scientific consensus is abiogenesis. Life got here. Obviously, life got here. I don't give a shit. I don't give a shit if it was crapped out of the flying spaghetti monster.
Oh, okay. So that's just your arrogance and anger. I could tell is coming out right now. Okay.
No, my irritation with people like you. That's exactly what it is.
Yeah, and it's just anger and pride. That's all that is. But I can give you dozens of chemists that don't agree with abiogenesis.
Great, I could give you 1,000 for every dozen.
Great. So what? And like the consensus doesn't matter. Just like I could print a paper on capitalism in North Korea and nobody would read it. It would be rejected.
Okay, and
So what?
yeah, okay, that's perfect. You want to print off a scientific paper on capitalism? How does that going to work?
I was giving you an example.
You were giving me a horrible example that obviously says that you'd listen.
Well, there's no. I can give you PhDs that don't agree that would point out the problems. So if you can refute them,
See, you made the mistake of using one of Kent Hovine's examples.
No, I didn't say Kent Hovind. I said James Ford to begin with.
Capitalism in North Korea.
Yeah,
that's one of Kent Hovind.
Well, obviously there's a bias there that if I had to print a paper, you guys would reject it. So I couldn't print it in your journals, was my point.
You could print it if it were actually factual.
Well, there are problems with the RNA world and other problems with abiogenesis that are factual.
Okay. Do you actually have a complaint about evolution so me and Jungle can continue our conversation, or are you
can well, he's not here. I thought we were just going to discuss the origin of life for a minute, but if you want to go on about evolution, you got to do that with him.
So you have nothing that could disprove evolution then?
So yeah, but evolution needs a biogenesis of information.
Yeah, you still need a start. You're right. You still have to have a foundation, which is life from non-life. But you don't seem to care. You started cursing and
information from no information that's not there.
First of all, you're the one that jumped on here and started screaming at me and started talking like a smartass. So I mean, yeah, if you want to talk about,
no, I don't scream. How was I scream? I just said that abiogenesis has problems.
You had your gain all the way up, dude. You were screaming in my damn ear because I'm wearing headphones.
Oh, you have headphones on. That's why.
Yeah, I got my earphones in, but just lower the volume maybe, or can you do it?
I'll do it on my phone. I'll just talk with a distance.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry about that. Yeah. I mean, you got to get life going just like I could give you all the parts to an automobile. It ain't going to self-assemble without a mechanic. I mean, I could give you all the purified chemicals and activated nucleotides and everything needed. It's not going to come together without teams of intelligent chemists and design sequencing machines and everything else.
Okay, it says here, the evidence of evolution is compelling and extensive. And the only thing I could see was that mistakes happen, therefore evolution. It's, mistakes that are selected for, therefore evolution.
All right. Thanks, Jungle. Have a good day, brother.
All right. You can, you can stay if you want. You don't have to.
Oh, you guys! I don't want to interrupt your evolution debate.
No, I'm actually studying for a discussion with PhD Dan.
Yeah, we're gonna. Yeah,
he's helping me to study up for the discussion.
Okay.
But yeah, you can. I mean, you can participate if you want or whatever.
That's all right. I don't. You one-on-one. You guys go hash it out. I'm gonna have James Tor on next week, and we're gonna talk about the RNA world problems and all those problems. So.
Oh, that's great. That's good.
Yeah. All right, brother. Have a good day,
right.
man. God bless.
All right. See you. Okay, so we got extensive and compelling evidence. Okay. Now see if we can.
Measures. I can get into this.
Physical evidence is fossils.
Yeah. Anatomy and embryology.
Anatomy and embryology. Biogeography, meaning different animals, different places. Molecular biology, which means that
structures.
Molecular biology is the fact that everything has different instructions to be different things.
No, molecular biology. The evidence for evolution through molecular biology is the reason why everything has a similar but yet slightly varying DNA.
Well, you realize that there's only so many ways that you could possibly make a living organism, right? I mean, DNA seems to be the only way as far as we know, right?
Yes, but when it follows the embryological development, the fossils, the morphology,
So
and
then it,
it's
so
just
then it,
different.
so that would stand to reason that everything would need to have DNA with different instructions to be different things.
That's your
Uh,
go-to.
I didn't hear a response, so maybe it was good.
If that's your defense on that, then Dan's just going to chew you up and spit you out.
Well, you got to help me out there. You know,
I'm trying to.
you got to tell me what to do, what to say.
Keep
Let's
saying mistakes. I've told you
evolution.
20 times now in this hangout
Here,
alone.
here's
That's
a
mutation.
crash course. Here's a crash course. Maybe we can watch a crash course. Wait, I got to put the sound on. I got to put the sound on here. Hold on, because I don't know how else to put the sound on. Let's see, go here.
Congratulations, this is our last episode of our section on evolution and genetics, which puts us at the halfway mark of Crash Course Biology. So far, we've learned about DNA, genetics, natural selection, how cells multiply, population, speciation, replication, respiration, and photosynthesis. I'm so proud of you. But I couldn't let this section end without discussing the discussion that everybody can't help but discuss these days: evolution. It's a thing. It's not a debate. Evolution is what makes life possible. It allows organisms
That's news to me.
to adapt to the environment as it changes. It's responsible for the enormous diversity and complexity of life on
Okay, that's a big claim. It's responsible for all the diversity and complexity of life forms. That wow, that was a big jump, and of course, there's nothing connecting it. There's nothing connected it together.
Earth, which not only provides organisms with sources of food and some healthy competition, it also gives us some truly awesome stuff to marvel at. And even though evolution makes living things different from one another, it also shows us how we're all the same. All of life, every
With different instructions.
single thing that's alive on the earth today can claim the same shared heritage.
To be different things.
Are you
Descended from the very first microorganisms.
What's that?
Are you doing this to avoid copyright or something? Because you're just jumping in every couple of seconds. Are you actually listening to these things?
No, I'm studying for the discussion.
You're making snide comments. You're not studying for anything.
Yeah, because they need to be made. But anyway, it's it's humorous.
It's supposed to be educational, and you're apparently not
Here you
learning.
go. See this? See this here? You know what this is?
That's a honey badger.
It's a honey badger.
That's what I just
Now
said.
let me show you something else here. Hold on a second. Let me show you this other one here. Hold on, just be patient with me here. See. What's this?
Appears to be a greater Dyson.
Is it greater Grayson, right?
Mhm.
It was separated from the honey badger when South America broke apart from Africa.
Yeah, like millions of years ago.
The same time when the jaguar was separated from the leopard,
Yeah,
100 years after the global flood. Anyway,
bullshit.
moving right along. Now, where am I?
One to the left. No. 4 to the left. 5 to the left. 6 to the left. Your second tab. One more. There.
Oh, okay. What happened here? Okay. Try again. Good. Good.
There are people who will say that this is all random. It's not, and that this clumsy process could not be possible for the majestic beauty of our world. To them, I say, well, at least we agree that our world is beautiful, but, well, you're probably not going to enjoy the rest of this video. To me, there are two sorts of people in the world: those that are excited about the power and beauty and simplicity of the process of evolution, and those who don't understand it. And some
Okay, I'm looking
I
for a
agree.
mechanism. I'm looking for a mechanism. I got to find a mechanism for evolution. Okay.
You've got 10 minutes of video.
where only 40% of the population believes that evolution is a thing. The only possible reason for that I can accept is that they just don't understand it. It's time to get real, people.
All right. Enough of that.
First, let's understand what we mean when we talk about the theory of evolution. Evolution is just the idea that gene distribution changes over time, which is an indisputable fact which we observe all the time in the natural world. But the theory of evolution is a large set of ideas that integrates and explains a huge mass of observations from different disciplines, including embryology, paleontology, botany, biochemistry, anatomy, and geophysics. In everyday language, the word theory means hunch or even hypothesis, but in science, a theory is an idea that
It means the same thing in science.
No, it does
explains
not.
several phenomena at once. Thus, the theory of evolution is a bunch of ideas.
Theory is an idea.
Yeah, a theory is an idea when used in everyday language. In the scientific world, a theory is a collected set of facts that are used to explain something.
No, it has to be. It would be a law if it was a fact.
No, because you have the law of gravity, which is a descriptive thing. Okay, you have the theory of evolution, which is the description of all of the mechanisms that describe the descriptive form of evolution, which things change.
But I'm looking for a mechanism. I can't find any mechanism.
Evolution is a mechanism.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking for. Let me see if I can find it.
Mechanism for the law that things change.
Maybe he has a mechanism for evolution. Hold on.
Meticulously and precisely explains the facts, and the facts are indisputable. So let's spend some time going through the facts and how evolution explains them all so well. First, fossils. The fossil record shows that organisms that lived long ago were different from those that we see today. Sounds
Not all of them.
obvious, but 200 years ago, it seemed a little bit crazy. When scientists started studying dinosaur fossils in the 1820s, they thought that all dinosaurs were basically giant iguanas. That's why the first fossil dinosaur was named Iguanodon. It wasn't until the fossils of two-legged dinosaurs started showing up in the 1850s that scientists had to grapple with the idea that organisms of the past were somewhat similar to ones today, like dinosaurs were to reptiles, but many of them took on a diversity that's barely recognizable to us. And all those ancient, not really iguanas were all extinct, either dying out completely or evolving into organisms that survive today, like
Yeah, that's a stretch.
What?
birds. Fossils make it clear that only
You can't be anything other than what you have specific instructions to be.
Really? Are you a mammal?
evolution can explain the
You can't be anything other than the human that you were directed to be.
And all humans are apes, mammals, tetrapods, eukaryotes, and the list goes on.
Which are different.
No, they're not.
They're not the same thing. They got different information. The genetic information is not the same as what we have as humans.
Ancestry.
There is no ancestry except that going back to Noah, the time of the flood.
And this is where your brain locks off, and the reason why you can't accept evolution.
Okay.
whales are cetaceans, a group of mammals that includes porpoises and dolphins, and biologists long suspected that whales descended from land mammals. Partly because some modern whales still have the vestigial remnants of a pelvis and hind limb bones. But it wasn't until recently, the 1990s and 2000s, that the pieces really came together. First, paleontologists discovered fossils of Dorodon, cetaceans that had different skulls from modern whales.
This is his evidence.
Vestigial leg bones. Then they found even older fossils.
I need a mechanism.
From another cetacean that actually had
The mechanism you're looking for?
pelvis.
I need a mechanism. I can't use this looks like this or this looks like that or this became this or this became that. I need a mechanism for something to be different, something other than what it was directed to be.
So you,
Wasn't fused.
I don't understand this. You're looking for a mechanism. We give you 7 different mechanisms for evolution, and you're saying that none of them are actually mechanisms?
Yeah, I'm looking for a mechanism that'll write vast amounts of programming, billions of bits of programming that's not there from
Okay,
thin air.
you're looking for something that has absolutely nothing to do with evolution.
Well, that's what evolution requires. It requires it supposedly accounts for all the written instruction that's not there in every living organism.
Because only in
That's
creationist garbage
that's
papers do
your claim. It's your claim that you have to prove, and you need a mechanism for that to prove it.
no, it's
And
the
there is, and your
mechanism. You're not
and
accepting
your and your only mechanism, according to the papers we read, is mutation,
mutation, which is
which
a driving mechanism,
which
genetics.
is a which is a copying error, which doesn't write any instruction at all.
You've already been proven wrong 4 different times now, just on this thing, that a mutation is not a
In your imagination.
no. You proved yourself wrong. That's the funny thing.
But more importantly, it still had ankle bones, and they were ankle bones that are unique to the order that includes bison, pigs, hippos, and deer. So by following these clues left behind in fossilized bones, paleontologists were able to track the origin of whales back to the same origin as bison and pigs. This leads us to another series of facts that evolution explains, not how animals are different, but
If they're as responsible with the whales as they are with the Lucy chimp and things like that, saying that they're humans, then I don't believe a word they say anyway. And this is all variation anyway.
Your problem,
This is not giving me a mechanism for evolution. This is just saying it changed and changed and changed and changed.
what are you expecting from a video marked Crash Course Biology? I mean, this guy's literally just telling you what the facts
No,
are. He's not going to give
right?
you.
No, no, no. I need a mechanism. I need a mechanism for evolution.
So why
And
were you watching that video then? If you're
well, it's supposed to give me a I'm looking at everything. I'm looking at anything and everything, including you, to see if I can find a mechanism for evolution to account for billions of bits of programming that aren't there.
well, why don't you take a look right there? You got a bunch of misconceptions about evolution right there. Maybe you'll find all of the ones that you're trying to spout.
Okay, so how do you account for the billions of bits of written programming and instruction that's not there in every organism, that's in one and not the other?
See, the problem is that's not how it works. And the fact that you're looking for that because you know you're not going to find it is incredibly dishonest.
Well, of course, I'm not going to find it because evolution doesn't exist. It's all your imagination.
Really.
Yeah,
Mm.
because you don't have a mechanism. The only mechanism you have is mistakes. By admission, the only evidence of evolution or the only mechanism for evolution is mistakes.
We just sat here and went through a paper showing you 7 different mechanisms of evolution, and you're going to completely ignore every bit of it.
No, because those mechanisms for variation aren't evolution. They're recombination of the same existing information that was already there back and forth and responding to the environment.
The definition of evolution is change in allele frequency in a population over time. That is literally variation.
Which does not write billions of bits of instruction that's not there. You know, I, I'm so confident that I can talk to a PhD biologist without any concern whatsoever. I'm trying to find a mechanism that I know is not even there because you know, every time I talk to somebody, say, "Well, why don't you Google it? Google. All you have to do is Google it." I'm looking for the mechanism. All I can see is mistakes. It's supposed to be writing instruction that's not there.
Have you
That's
talked
the
to this
only.
guy before, or is he just in for a surprise?
What?
I said, have you actually talked to this guy before, or is he in for a surprise?
Yeah, yeah. He knows who I am, and he's very, very kind, very considerate, and he wants to talk to everybody, anybody, and everybody that wants to talk to him. You know, that's willing to talk. And so I said, hey, maybe he can teach me something. I don't know.
Well, that depends. I mean, it's a little
No,
hard to teach somebody who just flat out refuses to accept anything.
no, because he's the biologist, and I'm not a PhD, so I'm sure there's something he could teach me that I don't know. See, and you know, if there's no mechanism other than mistakes, you know, then watch out for that steamroll, because they're discovering all kinds of evidence against evolution.
No. Creation.
Yeah,
All
yeah.
kinds of good stuff.
Better get out of the way because the steamroller's coming through. Just let it go, let it die by itself on its own.
I don't believe that when I say it.
Let it die. Let it go. Evidence supporting biological. See this? And, people talk about, oh, it must be a vast conspiracy. Yeah. Look at it. You see that all these numbers of even Christian papers, evidence supporting biological evolution when there's zero evidence of any evolution. Zero. And
So-
and you got paper after paper after paper after paper claiming evidence of evolution when there's zero evidence of evolution. They don't even have a mechanism to write any instruction that's not there of a directed working mechanism inside of a biological organism, much less billions of bits of programming, coding, instruction, all the quality control and everything. I mean, come on, give me a break. It's about time you let it die. Let go, let it go, let it die.
So the fact that 99% of biologists,
No, please. You can see the papers here. None of them have a mechanism. None of them have anything to tell me. Just let it go. Let it
let me
die.
go check this real quick, just so I don't get my Google figures wrong here. How many scientific papers on evolution?
All right, let it go. Yeah, none of which have a mechanism.
There are 554,965 scientific papers on the topic of evolution.
None of which have a mechanism for it. So it's all rubbish.
Seen
It's all rubbish. It's all nonsense because come on, just let it go. Let it die.
I mean,
Please.
so you've seen all 500,000.
Spare yourself. Spare yourself the suffering and anguish and misery. Genetic mutations arise by chance. By chance, millions of monkeys are typing on typewriters, writing instruction that's not there. It may or may not equip the organ. Oh, it may and may not equip the organism with better means of surviving. So the mistakes happen. It may or may not work or make it better or worse in a particular environment.
Mm-hmm.
But even if a gene improves, do you have any idea of how much time that you need? You need an infinite amount of time in limited time and distance.
So
This,
once you start coming up to close to something that could be a mechanism, you immediately go magic.
because you're appealing to infinite possibilities in limited time and distance. That's your claim of evolution, is relying on infinite possibilities in unrelated mistakes, writing vast volumes of Shakespeare and encyclopedias that aren't there.
I'm going to go ahead and correct Jesus as Lord in the chat over here. It's not 5 billion, it's 500,000, and almost every one of them has a mechanism. You guys just refuse to admit it.
No, there's no, none of them. The only mechanism is a mistake. That's the only mechanism.
Natural selection is a mechanism. Artificial selection is a mechanism. Sexual selection is a mechanism.
Yeah, most of which is variation and back and forth.
It is variation.
It's back and forth variation that doesn't write instruction. It's not there.
Back and forth doesn't need to be applied there. Evolution is variation.
You're not going to get the instruction that's different between different organisms by going back and forth from the same information.
When there is an environmental pressure, i.e. natural selection, that causes a mutation that causes an organism to adapt better than its peers and causes that organism to pass that gene on because it reproduces better, that is evolution.
We've observed warping of frogs, that that find the stream with moving water and they lose function of their lungs and stuff. But that's not evolution. It's change. It's very different from the other one. It doesn't have any lungs, functional lungs hardly anymore
And how's that not evolution?
because it's still a frog. It didn't change. The information didn't change. It's just became more practical to lose the function of the lungs or the eyes or the whatever it is,
How are
because
you assuming
that's how
evolution works?
epigenetics works. It does it for the most economical way for the thing to survive in a particular environment.
Okay, so I don't understand what you're talking about right now. Okay, how are you assuming that evolution works at the or at the generational level? I mean, are you assuming that? Sorry, my alarm went off. Are you assuming that? What am I trying to say here? Are you like trying to say that one species over the course of one generation is going to give birth to a different species? Is that how evolution is supposed to work to you?
No, it's supposed to be over millions of years, and you don't even have millions of years, and even millions of years won't write instruction that's not there. Because everything degrades at a much faster rate than it
Okay.
supposedly puts itself into directed working order.
Okay. See, the thing that you're going to have to, if you want to learn anything about evolution, you're going to have to set the 6,000 years aside. So you've got to set that aside.
No, that's known history. I can't set known history aside.
I can't set aside the fact that you would have to believe in some weird hyperinflated evolution to get as many species
No,
off the ark as we have today.
it's called epigenetics. It's
No, that's not.
observed.
That
It's
is
observed.
absolute.
Responding to the environment is observed, and we know how it does it. It's epigenetics.
How many species were on the ark?
Uh,
Just
enough.
land-bearing mammals. I'm not even talking about the birds or the bugs. How many
Enough.
mammals or reptiles or land-bound creatures that breathe were on the
Yeah.
ark?
Enough of what we have today. They've already done the math. They've already checked it out. It's not that many. It's like a couple thousand or something.
Really, you think you can have a couple of thousand different species, at least two pair of each species, and not to mention the seven
Or,
pair of the
I don't know
crazy they had to
what is
sacrifice.
it, 1,200? I don't know, a couple thousand, but they already checked the math, and there's
You
plenty
get
of room on the ark.
animals in a 300-foot boat?
There's plenty of room on the ark if you know what the size of the ark was for all the land animals to be on there.
Yeah,
And
the average cubit of that day, even if you went by the imperial cubit, which was the 21 inches long, that boat was not big enough.
yeah, it was the size of my cubit, which was the Egyptian cubit, which is plenty of room for all the animals on the ark. They've already checked it out. It's even room to spare.
Okay, the Egyptian cubit. So that would be what, 21.5 inches?
It's I don't know. It's the size of my cubit, and I'm 6'1".
Okay, so obviously it's not the size of your cubit, considering you're considerably taller than.
Yeah, it's the size of my cubit. Yeah, because I measured it, and it's the size of my cubit.
Okay, but we'll go with the big end. We'll go with 21.5 inches for a cubit. So it was 300 cubits long, correct?
It was what you see in Kentucky. That's how big it was.
Okay, and that's 6,450. Let's divide that by 12 for an actual foot measurement. We've got 537 feet.
And what was it? 4 stories? I think it was four stories or something like that.
Okay, so
I mean, the dimensions are given specific dimensions, and it's plenty of room.
no, the problem is the dimensions that are given, there's no possible way that you can fit every species of land-bound creature on it. Okay, you have to go at least back to the genus level, if not to the family level, to get a small enough number to deal with.
I think there's room to spare. I think you could have each of the main kinds of cats and foxes, wolves, and different animals, hyenas, everything on the ark. There's plenty of room.
Really.
Yeah.
And you have absolutely feasibility of Noah's Ark. The Ark was the size of a small World War II carrier.
See, they keep on bringing up this phylogeny thing here between animals.
Yeah, that's morphology.
The morphology, morphology. That's what I meant to say, morphology.
Okay. What's wrong with it?
It's just that, everything has to grow, and everything has to grow the same way. And it's just the best way for it to grow, and it's the only way for life to exist is with the DNA, it seems like to me, pretty much.
Okay, so
For it to be viable for all the different living organisms, they all have DNA because they all have to grow. And they're all growing into different things. It doesn't matter what they start out like, what they look like. They grow into different things because they have different instruction. They don't have the same instruction.
we really need to get off of the instruction thing because that just doesn't work with you.
Well, it works fine. It works great with me.
It doesn't work, period.
Works real good. Check this out. This is before the breakup of the continents here.
Which one's that one? What's the name you're giving it?
This 100 years after the global flood, these continents broke apart here. This main continent broke apart.
240 million years ago. That doesn't say 100 years after the global flood.
No, in the Bible, the historical record says 100 years after the global flood, the earth was divided. So here we see this breaks here. It was divided, and India has
Presence in Australia, South Africa, and South America is best explained by the plant family's presence there prior to the southern supercontinent. Yeah, that's Gondwana.
This is Gondwana. You do realize that 15 million years would have washed all the sediments into the ocean, so that there are no more continents, right?
In your fantasy, does it do that?
Huh? No, at the current rate of erosion, they'd all be washed into the ocean. And
we have vast amounts of evidence that shows that the current rate of erosion was not always the rate of erosion.
15 million years. What are you making up stuff as you go?
Shows you that erosion is just about meaningless.
I think you're just making up stuff now.
Okay, so how many supercontinents do you know about?
Supercontinents? Well, there was other ones. There was this Gondwana. Supposedly there was another one too.
Just one?
Well, it's. What do you care when you don't care about the evidence of the global flood? Right?
Because plate tectonics disproves the global flood.
No, plate tectonics is the result of the global flood.
In the fairy tale, the world broke up one time 100 years after the global flood. Okay, we know of. I can name you 3 supercontinents just on this page.
Okay.
That means that the continents have moved 3 different times.
No, it means they have to fit the evidence with their belief. That's what it means.
Gondwana, Pangaea, Laurasia. That's 3 of them right there.
Yeah, so they have to fit the evidence with what they believe. So instead of a global flood, they have to invent all these supercontinents. When in fact,
the evidence points to these supercontinents.
When in fact this land area here broke apart 100 years after the global flood, because the jaguars made it to South America, the greater bison made it to South America, even the African ant bear made it to South America. He's called an aardvark in South America. And he's called an ant bear in Africa. They all made it to South America, along with all the other camels and dogs and everything that made it, chickens, everything that made it to South America. But the people never made it to South America because they were still over here in Mesopotamia 100 years out when the globe, when the Earth was divided in the days of Peleg.
Really?
They
So
were still,
built the Tower of
yeah,
Babel.
they were still in Mesopotamia when that happened, and then the breakup of the continents got them all scared and everything. They separated into family groups and started speaking their own languages, and that's when they began to spread out. So the Cushites went to the land of Cush, the Mitzrayim went to Egypt, and the Phoenicians went to Libya and places like that. And Cush had a son named Nimrod. He stayed in Mesopotamia and never even went to Africa, and his descendants went the opposite way. They went east instead of this way. So they went all over the Pacific, all the way to the Americas, the CY chromosome, and never even showed up in Africa. So that disproves right there the out of Africa belief, because Cush was, I mean, Nimrod was Cush's son, and Cush
Does prove, I'll agree with you that it does prove something.
and Cush is Ham's son, and Ham is Noah's son.
See, this right here, that proves that the Bible has no idea what the heck it's talking about. Because
No, it's you can follow the Y chromosome chart, and that's what it shows.
I'm not even talking about the Y chromosome. I'm talking about.
No, I am talking about the Y chromosome.
You're talking about the Y chromosome because you absolutely love the Y chromosome. Okay, but
Yeah, because it's real evidence that you can't disprove.
no, we've disproven it multiple times right here on your page.
You can't disprove the Y chromosome DNA evidence.
Really, do you really want to bring up your favorite chart that's got the star that disproves it for you?
Yeah, you can't disprove that because there's no C there. There's A, B, and then it jumps to E. What happened to C and D?
Because
They
if
never even showed up in Africa.
screen, it says you start at the star, which starts at A.
Never even showed up in Africa. Well, that's my study of evolution. No mechanism for evolution whatsoever.
Except for
I even have carnivore ape here trying to help me out, help me study, and I can't find a mechanism for evolution.
real quick, what is Dan's YouTube page? Because I really want to see this conversation.
It's he's creation myths.
Creation myths. Let's see.
Yeah, it's Monday at 8 o'clock. Yeah.
Creation myths.
Yeah, because maybe I can learn something.
Captivating history. I don't see that page.
It's YouTube is kind of strange. It's something you go look for something you can't find it, but it is creation myths. It's
140 some subscribers.
Let me find. Oh, I can find it here. Let me find it.
Is it just a silver circle that says I think?
Yeah, hold on. I'll get it. YouTube.
Creation conversation with jungle jargon. Set reminder. There it is.
Okay.
Let him
There you
know.
go.
Let him know that he got a subscriber.
Yeah, I'm subscribed. I subscribe too. So that's nice.
Yeah, I want to see that.
All right. So we got some ultralights here. Yeah, what else we got here? How about did you ever see? Did you know they made Corvette with a mid-engine? Is a mid-engine car now? Corvette.
As in the Corvette's under the body.
No, the Corvettes now. They're making them their mid-engine cars now. I didn't even know that. What do you call it? The CA? C8? Ah. I don't know what this is. C8 Corvette. Okay. Let me see. Where's a good one here? 2020. Here we go. It's a mid-engine car. It's crazy. It's wild and crazy.
No, that's what I said to him. As soon as 6 is going to be so
Come on. Give me a break.
Oh my God, James. What? The windows are smashed. I think somebody tried to break into the car. What did you take? No, I need it. Glass is smashed. Oh, you left a note. Sorry, bro. I thought I was stealing a manual. Enjoy it, I guess. That's fair.
And $20,000. What's all
C8 Corvette.
And this is an exciting day, not just because we're driving the new 2020 Corvette, but also we've teamed up with Omaze to give away one and $20,000. We'll talk about it more at the end. All you need to know right now is for your chance to win, go to omaze.com/throttlehouse.
Anyway, it's a mid-engine car. No, they did away.
That's actually
They
kind
went-
of considering my car's been attempted to be stolen 3 times and they couldn't get it out of the driveway.
Yeah.
But I drive a manual, so
I haven't driven a manual in a while. I think maybe, I don't know, automatic is just easier, especially if you have 7 speeds. My car has 7 speeds.
I drive a crappy little Saturn.
Oh, here we go. What's this? Let's see what this is about. Oh, this is a boat. This is a flying boat. This is a boat. I think that's a lot more bulky than a pontoon configuration. I want a pontoon configuration.
Yeah. That's a little weird.
Well, we got anybody here? No, nobody's here.
Anthony's still here. Jesus Lord's here. Jeremy Martin's here.
If anybody wants to come in, you can join. I'm finishing up my study with for my discussion with the biologist Dan, PhD. So,
Apparently Illuminati popped in a little while ago.
oh, is it Illuminati's?
I don't know if they're still here.
Biogenesis is great. He loves it. He loves it. I don't know what it is he loves, but because it isn't anything, it doesn't exist.
What are we talking about? Abiogenesis is great. I love it.
Okay, you know what? You know what's a good one is called a seaplane that's called, not this one here. This is a Icon. The other one is called a Petrel. What's a Petrel anyway? Petrel is a bird, I think. Petrel. Yeah, there you go. That's a petrol. Now, if I add on to this C, oops. That's a petrol, and this is a petrol.
Okay.
It's a pretty nice aircraft. It's a small seaplane.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, where am I? Oh, I lost my YouTube.
StreamYards.
There's the YouTube. Anybody coming in? No. What we got? Anything? Nothing? Z06 Corvette 3 months ago. Oh, the Hellcat versus the Corvette. Let's see who wins. It's a Dodge versus a Chevy. Brum brum. I don't know. I never liked Corvette, but maybe I like Corvette better now.
Hell yeah, of an engine he's got in that thing.
It's crazy, and they do all kind of modification. They put turbos on it and everything. Audi. How many tracks they got? Oh, come on. Oh, well, skip it.
Hmm.
Yeah, I never liked to. I was never impressed with the Corvette, but that looks pretty nice.
I've never been huge on cars. My dream car is already a lemon anyway, so it doesn't matter too much to me.
Yeah.
I'm one of the few people that still likes the look of the DeLorean.
Oh, yeah. Well, back in the days, we had the Gremlin and the what? Not the Gremlin and what was that bubble car?
Mm,
The AMC Pacer.
no.
And they had these cheap engines that would vibrate the carburetor off. What was that other one? That real cheap one.
Yugo?
It was kind of like a Yugo, but it was before that. It was American car. It was when they started making cars real cheap, and they figured they had to stop doing that.
Propane powered Nerf blaster.
Propane powered Nerf blaster. Okay,
That's a little weird.
that sounds pretty serious. I don't know.
That looks like something that show up on my feed.
This is Portuguese. Oh, come on. You talk too much. Wait, where we get? Where we go? Let's go. Let's go. Bambara, bambara. There you go. Move out. Anyway. All right, I guess that's about it. My study's over with.
Can I at least give you a little bit of advice?
Sure.
Okay, if you're going to attempt to tell a PhD professor that he's wrong about anything, you need to make sure that you have the exact reason or mechanism as to how he's wrong. Because if you just say, "Well, you're wrong,"
Well, no, I gotta tell him what my problem is with evolution, and I don't see any mechanism for it.
okay, well, if you're going to tell him that and he gives you the mechanism, don't be surprised when you tell him that's not a mechanism that he just laughs at you.
Yeah, well, I don't intend to laugh at him. I mean, I don't expect to laugh, even though John was laughing at him the other night because he says that the mechanism doesn't matter, something like that. But they were talking about something else. But I mean, well, I guess it was basically the same thing, but he says it doesn't matter how it changes; it just changes. And John was laughing at him, John Maddox. Understanding quantum mechanics. It's not so difficult. Here we go. I'll check that out later. I don't watch it now. Take too long. All right. I hope everybody's having a great day today. What is today? Anyway, Saturday?
No,
Saturday, 2020.
I'm gonna be heading to the lake tonight.
Yep. Yeah, I'm still waiting around for my retirement stuff to process to go through and everything, and then I'll be heading out to Missouri. Missouri.
You'll only be a couple hours away from me. I'm in Oklahoma.
Yeah, oh, you're with Praise. You and Praise are buddies.
A little bit of a stretch, but okay.
I'm actually from Kansas, though, originally. I mean, my time here in the States was from Kansas and New Jersey and Florida and Chicago.
What part of Kansas were you in?
Central Kansas, around the Wichita area, more or less.
So like, you know where Medicine Lodge and all the other little towns are right down there?
Medicine Lodge near Wichita?
Yeah, well, it's about an hour and a half away. A little bit south. And,
Oh, in Oklahoma. Yeah, no, I haven't really been to Oklahoma too much.
I'm about 2 hours south of Wichita.
Yeah, and in Missouri, I'll be like 5 hours from Wichita, or 4 hours from Wichita. More or less. Okay, it's about it. I hope everybody's doing well and learning a lot. But I tried to learn evolution and I can't find a mechanism for evolution. But well, I guess that's about it, I guess. So everybody have a nice day. We'll just sign out.
Eventually, we'll get you to find that one.
The mechanism. Yeah, I want to see the mechanism. Maybe Dan can help me out with the mechanism.
Hopefully.